telling me I
They wanna
can't.
go
I can't
home?
give blood. I have thin veins.
Okay.
You have to take it from my
Here comes the
hand.
fact again.
Well, if this person doesn't give blood, then again.
Okay.
So I have to talk about this because I promised this person I was going to talk about her on the podcast. I just gave blood, and the phlebotomist was talking to me, and she was talking about how she and the other phlebotomist there, how they recognized me, and they said one recognized me and one didn't. They were talking about me behind my back, basically.
Right.
And she came over and said something to me about it. And I said, well, I'm much better looking on television. And she said, well, no. She said, no, not really. And I just cracked up. I told her that is an absolute setup question that I tell people all the time just to see what kind of response I'm going to get. And that's one of the funniest ones. No, not really.
Oh wow.
So, Carly, if you're out there listening to the 41 Files podcast, as you promised you would, there's your shout out.
Not really. And with that, welcome to 41 Files.
That shall be the open.
Oh, definitely.
I thought that it might.
It was strategic.
Strategic.
Strategery.
Strategery.
And I well, that's it uninterrupted.
Hi, Megan.
Hello. Hello.
So I didn't have to edit out a portion of Taylor talking about his grandmothers again. Got a direct message from Taylor at like 4 last Wednesday.
Yeah. I listened to it. I was like, I can't believe that's on the podcast.
It's okay.
Not okay.
I cleared it with the wife. It's okay.
No, not okay. The wife is not the problem.
I know she's not.
I know you get this all the time, but I think your hair is incredible.
Oh,
I think
thank
it's beautiful.
you so much. Thank you. It's we've been fighting the past few days.
Have you?
Yeah. Been thinking about.
Is that because it's dry outside, or?
Well, no, just getting on my nerves.
Oh.
I'm thinking about getting a style, so I want to deal with it for a while.
A style?
A style.
Maybe some box sprays or something, so it can
Oh.
just be out of my face.
Okay. Are we just talking Chiefs, or is there something else we were going to touch
I think
on?
we just talked the Chiefs and
Get a little
Chiefs
spicy
hangover.
tangerine.
Okay. Oh, great.
We should have a podcast like, guess what food this is? Listen.
Guess what food
that was a rejected show episode of Chew.
Guess what food this
Here it comes.
is. Oh, God, that's
It sounds like you pulled off a Band-Aid.
It's the tangerine.
Taylor, we ate some almonds.
I've
okay.
had all the snacks so far.
That's funny. Megan, it is Strickland, right? Is your last name? Okay, I want to make sure.
Not with the T.
Strickland.
Yeah, SCRCK.
You're not strict.
Not Strickland.
Because I was on the save folder. Somebody made me a save folder. Thank you. And I'm like, Strickland? What is this?
My news mom is Strickland.
I've never seen I've seen
It's Strick.
Strickland before, but I've seen
Yeah.
that, but I've never seen one with a T in it.
Yeah, I've never seen a T.
Okay.
Hers is with a K, right?
Let me double check.
It's with the K.
News
Yeah.
mom?
He spells
Yeah.
it just like
It's like
mine.
a mentor-ish type
Yes.
figure?
Yes.
She spells it just like
She's my
mine.
main anchor.
Someone who cares for
I
him.
just told him. She spells it just like I spell my last name.
Yeah, she does. My bad.
Right.
Trying to tell him. But there are some L-E-N's. I see the last part being different, but not the...
She's the main anchor of my first station.
I have a mom.
That's South
named
Carolina?
Strickland, too.
Stevens' go-to sentence back at my last station.
Oh, yeah.
Back
I
at this
get
station.
lit up for that.
Back
My
at this station.
my mom. Her name is Strickland, too. Yeah.
Not news mom, just
My mom.
plain old mom.
Just plain mom.
Okay.
Taylor's. Never mind. I can't go there.
What?
Nothing.
Were you about to talk about my mom?
No.
Is that what's going on? No. Taylor's mom. Hold on.
I didn't want to make Taylor feel like he's old. I was about to say Taylor's someone's news dad, but that might not come across
gosh.
right.
That's rough. I'm only 36.
She's not old.
Nope.
Darcy's not old. Darcy might be 40.
You ready over there?
Yeah.
I think it's have been that way. Yeah.
I have to swallow my tangerine.
Listen, that's fine.
Jesus Christ.
Some water.
Hello, welcome to another edition of 41 Files here at 41 Action News. We're glad you're with us on the week after the Chiefs season ends. We're going to be talking about the Chiefs today and kind of recapping the non-sports part of covering the Chiefs and what the season has been like a little bit, and especially the way it ended. Joining me, as always, Sam Hartle, digital producer. Hi, Sam.
So I'm rationalizing. I was here Sunday night helping to cover the game. We had this plan ready for the Chiefs won.
Yep.
Both for Sunday night and then for the couple of weeks. And I was a D Ford offsides penalty, and it wasn't even close. I mean, D was clearly offside.
Lined up offside.
Right. And was that close from spending a week in Atlanta with my 41 friends and a whole bunch of Chiefs fans, but alas.
How many people would we have sent to the Super Bowl, do you think?
It was 11, right?
Yeah.
11 people.
I was going to have to...
Seeing as how I was never asked, I'm assuming that was not on that
Oh,
list.
man. Yikes.
11 people.
I'm going to say
Taylor,
public
you're-
records are released now that
11
we're not
people.
going, right?
And
Yeah.
Taylor, you're still not on it. How many people are going? 28. And Taylor's not one of them.
And we're going to have to hit up Stephen Dial for tips on where to go in Atlanta for stories.
Yeah, 41 Action News reporter Stephen Dial in the room as well. Hi, Steve.
Hello, greetings.
And 41 Action News producer Megan Strickland. Hi, Megan.
Hi, hello.
So Megan does obviously crossover with this podcast here, and you've done some time with the 4th and 1 folks over there, and
Yeah.
so you've got to kind of be our bridge between sports and news a little bit today and help cover
Yeah.
both of those bases, so to
That's
speak.
pretty much my job is just to bridge between the two departments.
She holds a lot.
That's,
together.
hey, were
you
you
like
were you going to the Super Bowl?
No.
Okay, well then fine.
Sports producer does not get to go to the Super Bowl.
I had to find another person in the room that wasn't going.
I
because-
wasn't going.
Oh, you weren't? The way you were talking about it was like there's 11 of them. I was
Now,
like,
now I regret bringing that up.
so Sam's the only one in the room that was
Yikes.
going to go. All right.
Man.
But guess what? Nobody's going. So,
Guess what?
Hey.
Yeah, no, go-
Not
no.
even the chosen 11 are going to Atlanta for the Super Bowl.
They could have lined up on the field.
That's right. Got a whole team from 41.
Just make
Literally.
sure they're on side.
Just make sure they are not offsides. Man, I went back and looked at that replay, and legit, and I'm sure everyone's seen it. The referee had his hand on the flag, just waiting for as soon as they snapped the ball, and he threw it. So it was absolutely a situation where there was no contest to that. Was he? Was he not? Yeah, could have been a whole different thing. But that's just one of the topics people have been talking about. The other is just a bummed outness. You know, it felt very much going into that game like it can't end tonight. I think the city felt that way very much, even though the Chiefs were up against the vaunted New England Patriots and Tom Brady and all that kind of thing. It felt very much like it can't end tonight. And then at halftime, when they did not look like the Chiefs we've watched most of the season, I think that was the feeling that started to permeate a little bit of, hey, it could end tonight. And that's where it went, at least at the watch party I was.
Were you guys on social media like Sunday morning and Sunday afternoon? It was crazy. Everybody was just like on the edge of their seats.
Oh, yeah.
It was
Describing like what it was like waiting on time for the game to
right. They're
start.
like,
that kind of thing.
why couldn't we have had the early game? We have to wait until 5:40.
It felt like forever.
It did. I went out for I couldn't stand it, so I went out for a run or something like that, just to kind of get some fresh air and not have to deal with that for a while.
Fresh air being the 12-degree fresh air. Did you go run on Sunday afternoon?
I think it was actually a walk.
Okay, well, that is still outdoor activity, and it was very, very cold. Stephen, you were there at the stadium basically all day on Sunday, covering a multitude of stories for 41, including Dave. We'll get to him a little bit too. But what was your impression there leading up to the game and the moments after?
It's crazy because everyone knows I'm from Atlanta, but I really enjoy watching the Chiefs
The
team.
face Megan just
I'm
made.
saying everyone, I enjoy the Chiefs team, and personal reasons, I just don't like the Patriots, and that's well publicized.
No one does.
And so, like waking up Sunday, you feel nervous. It's like, why am I nervous? I don't have anything to do with this game.
Right.
And you wake up and you feel like, and then, sitting in the press box, and then, us standing in the tunnel for the last basically 15 minutes with cheerleaders, and Roger Goodell walks by, and we're just looking at the screen, and me and our photographer Al, we're like, when that interception happened, we jumping up and down, and then you see the offsides,
flag.
and so it was a rush of emotions.
Megan, you were here during Sunday's coverage. Were you here for all before the game and everything like that?
Yeah.
What was your perspective like before the game, leading up to the game, and then as it unfolded?
I don't know. It's just like because you don't know what's going to happen. You're like, okay, if we win, all this stuff is going to happen. We're going to have a 2-hour show, be on air for 2 hours.
Yeah.
We got to wait for next week. But if you lose, you're like, oh,
We're done.
okay, so it's over. And then just driving, I've never lived, unlike Stephen, I don't live in Atlanta. But I grew up in a really small town in a small state, so there's no professional team.
Yeah.
So this is the first time I've been around a professional team where there's so much excitement about it. And everybody's wearing Chiefs stuff. You drive, you pull up, somebody's wearing a Chiefs hat.
Sure.
So it's really exciting to be a part of that in a city where everybody's just so excited about one thing. Like, the only time you see that is Christmas.
Absolutely.
Like, everybody's excited about one thing, this one day, and then, so being here, I mean, being here, people are, some people are tense because you don't know what's going to happen, how we're going to plan. So even up until the final moments of their game, we're like, okay, we're going to be on for 2 hours, or we're just going to cut in.
Yeah.
You don't know. And then I'm cutting this, cutting that, so there's so much going on.
Yeah.
And when you work in the sports department, there's only so much you can enjoy. Even the news, you're like, okay, I need to watch, but I need to be ready to.
I'm working. This is a
switch,
job.
like, okay,
yeah.
watch, but then flip the switch to get it ready to put on air. So it's been a crazy ride.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect the Chiefs to do all of this in the beginning of the season. I don't know.
Most people didn't. I think all the quote unquote experts were saying this is going to be, it's Mahomes' first season as a starter. We're looking at 7-9, 8-8. It's a tough schedule. They had a really tough schedule this year, especially early on. It's going to be a growing year for the Kansas City Chiefs. No one was putting the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, much less the number 1 seed hosting the AFC Championship game before the season started. So yeah, it's been a wild few months watching this, and it's interesting. You mentioned the not being from someplace where there's a dedicated fan base that
There is, but we're not going to talk about it.
right. It's more college sports where you're from than it is professional football because there's not a team there. I'm from Texas, as I've said almost as often as Steven has said, where he's from Atlanta, and but I'm not a Cowboy or Texan fan. I'm anti-Cowboy, and I'm kind of ambivalent a little bit towards the Texans. I grew up more of an Oilers fan. I grew up closer to Houston. But just being here this year, this was my first full season, first full Kansas City Chiefs season to be in Kansas City, and they made a fan out of me. I mean, to be involved in that kind of red wherever you go, it's intoxicating, really, to be involved with and to high five people you don't know on the streets and see, hey, we're all wearing Chiefs gear. And when we went to the watch party on Sunday night, my family and I, we were all wearing some sort of red or Chiefs emblazoned thing, and it felt cool because my family's never cared as much about football as I have, and here we are all set up for this kind of thing, which was a lot of fun. Side note: at my watch party, of all the people there was a church-related small group kind of thing, watch party. There were probably 35 to 40 of us there, kids and adults and all that kind of thing. There was one kid that had on a Tom Brady jersey, and he was probably 10 or 11 years old.
Did you pray for him?
We got near the end of the game, and it was when the Chiefs had the ball to go down and force overtime, the last drive of regulation, and he's like, he's not being a bad fan or anything like that, but he's kind of over the side going, get pressure on him, get to him, like trying to get to Mahomes is what he's talking about. And one of the guys that was there at the party, one of the adults said, do you know what being a good sport means, what good sportsmanship means? And he said, yes. And he said, you better practice it here in a few minutes. He said, if this doesn't turn out the way that I want it to, you need to practice it here in a few minutes, talking to this kid. And it was funny to watch.
So you spoke about like this fandom. Megan, you talked about, was there like a singular moment where during the season where we all kind of like picked up on like, oh, okay, this is like something different than what we've experienced before? The example that came to mind for me was a couple of months ago. I think it was in late November. I was at my dermatologist appointment, and like mid-afternoon or something like that. And we're all just a bunch of guys that are sitting in the waiting room, and we've all got our Chiefs gear on. And the conversation breaks out to, "Hey, do we think we can win on Sunday?" Mm-hmm. And it was like this really detailed conversation
with strangers,
with complete strangers in a medical, like usually most patient waiting rooms
don't talk to each other.
You don't talk. That's why they have magazines or TVs playing,
or your phone,
or right. Yeah, I don't know what people did in patient waiting offices before the
pre-phone.
It's great. You just put your phone down. No one reads magazines anymore, but in that particular instance, it was the community talking about their hopes and dreams for the Chiefs that week.
Yeah,
and that was crazy. I don't know if anybody else had a singular
moment like that.
A moment.
It was kind of like a build-up for me because the game against the Steelers.
Yeah.
The Steelers were the Chiefs, and then they win. You're like, oh, okay.
And that was the second game of the year.
Second game of the year
here we
on the
go.
road in Pittsburgh.
Okay,
6 touchdown passes.
Right, there you go. And then the next game for me was, okay, Jacksonville. Oh, yeah, defense. Man, defense.
Yeah.
I mean, and then the way, what's the guy's name? He's talking about Tyreek.
Oh, yeah.
Everything,
Yeah.
all the
Jalen
trash
Ramsey.
talking,
Yeah.
and boom. And then the Patriots game, you're like, whoa, it just came down to the last possession.
Yeah,
And then you're like, okay, we really got something going here.
Yeah.
So it was like a build up, just a snowball going down. He's like, oh, okay, this can really happen.
I think a lot of that is tied into the man who will be the MVP of the league this year. I think so much of that was, especially like we just talked about a minute ago, when the quote unquote experts and even fans, longtime fans of the team, were saying preseason, it's his first ride as starting quarterback. He's going to be good. We all feel like he's going to be good. We saw it last year when he got that one start. Just be patient with him. Let's see what happens. And then all of a sudden, watching this young man play football, go, you know what? He may be really good, and right now we don't have to wait for that. I was lucky enough; I won tickets from the station to the home opener against the 49ers, and I went with a buddy of mine who was a huge Chiefs fan. I mean, he can tell you who the backup long snapper is, and he was super excited about it and that kind of thing. So to experience that with him, but that was the play. I think it was the third week of the season, their home opener. It was the game where Mahomes had that scramble around in the end zone and throws a laser in the back corner of the end zone for a touchdown pass. And I saw that live, and I don't remember another play like that I'd ever seen live. And it was, I mean, I was up high. These were not great seats, and I could tell exactly what happened. And the entire stadium went, "Whoa, this is a whole different kind of thing that we're watching and are going to get to watch all season." That was a formative moment for me as a Chiefs fan, especially going into this season.
So I know Meg, and everyone jokes about me talking about Atlanta.
Here we
but
go.
This is
He's from Atlanta. I don't know if you know.
This is me actually not putting Atlanta in a great light. Being from a city, growing up in a city that has all the sports teams, Atlanta fans are only with you if you're winning.
Okay.
Like I went to Hawks games that they gave away free tickets, Falcons games that gave away free tickets. Here, when I moved here, this is the first city that I've been in that I've seen like a professional team atmosphere where the fans that is their team, that is what they care about, that is what they love. And so this whole season, just seeing the fans finally, get what they've been wanting as far as like getting over the hump of winning that playoff game over the Colts. I think that was my moment of seeing just everyone just hugging each other, just celebrating.
You felt the city exhale after that game.
Yeah, I mean, everybody wanted them to go Super Bowl, of course, but I think just in them winning that game against the Colts made it just such a special season. And not being from this area and seeing this city just like wrap their arms around a team that they've already had their arms around, but frustrated, it was just really cool.
Taylor, you covered for us the Cincinnati Sunday night game.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then you've covered several games this year. When you're out there do you get the gravitas of a big game? Does it feel is there like an energy that you can pick up on?
That's honestly what I was super jealous about on Sunday, because the game that I got to cover whenever the Bengals were here, that was my first ever game to cover on camera as a television person. I was in sports before this and had shot games and that kind of thing, but that was my first ever, hey, we're live at the stadium, that kind of thing to do. And it was incredible. One of my highlights of being here so far, and an early highlight in a career so far. I really, really loved it. But I was so jealous of the AFC Championship game, because every time I would look at Steven's feed or Kevin Holmes's or Mike or Mick or anything like that, it was some superstar walking out of the tunnel, whether it be Joe Montana or Roger Goodell or something like that. That was not just a football game. That was an event. That was the AFC Championship game that had a whole different vibe. That no matter how good your team is, that's something else. And to watch that on social media, I was going, man, that's like a rock concert and a football game all rolled into one. It really felt that way watching it.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, especially like Taylor and I are news guys, and so when you get the rare opportunity to kind of cover sports, which is a little like a little more, I don't want to say relaxed I know from my perspective, relaxed for me as far as I could say some things that maybe I couldn't say in reference to a news story. The Colts game, it was just super cool because it was like snowing and I've never been to an outdoor playoff game, and then you got snow. That was cool. But yeah, like you mentioned, the AFC Championship game was just a totally different vibe. Like
you could feel it coming off the social media stuff and off TV. You really could. So the other question I'm curious about is what the fandom moves towards going forward. And Megan, I want to pull you in here because I'm curious about, there's the stereotypical pro football fan a little bit, and this is no knock on anybody, but it's 45-year-old guy that has Chiefs hat and Chiefs gear and whatever, that kind of thing. Do you feel like moving forward that whether it be young people or different people that care about the Chiefs before this, do you get any kind of vibe of that after a season of being involved in watching this, do you think?
Just think like people being more
excited. Is it a different kind of fandom next year whenever they come back?
Way different. And the thing about it is just the players and their interaction with each other on social media.
Yeah.
You kind of feel like you're in their friendship and in that cohesiveness they have. They're just so like they're just a great team. And when the stuff happened with Hunt, it was kind of disappointing because you're like that chemistry, you know.
Yeah.
It's a big part, that locker room chemistry, because there was like a meme on social media, like Patrick Mahomes is giving a post game interview, and Kareem is just like,
Yeah, find you
looking
someone who looks
right.
at Patrick Mahomes,
and then
that
you're
kind of
like
thing.
thinking they're all friends, and just how that would impact them. But no, just as a person, I didn't have, so I'm really not a fan. I didn't have like you, I didn't have like a professional
built-in-
football
yeah,
team that I just rooted for. I loved watching the game, but not somebody I'm like, oh, I'm a hardcore fan. So I've been pulled in too. So and it's just seeing them all, and just the people, and like you can't even go in the thrift store. I got a Chiefs sweatshirt like my first year here for super cheap, and there was a bunch of them. I grabbed one.
Yeah.
You can't find stuff in thrift stores.
Yeah.
I mean, not saying, but I mean, you know, the vintage stuff.
That's an interesting
And
point,
It's
yeah.
just stuff, and people are so excited, and just it's everywhere. And there's going to be a lot more people, and the nation now is looking at Kansas City football,
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
which
I mean-
is something I never remember growing up after watching. I mean, since I'm a casual football fan,
Sure.
who watches everything and doesn't have a team I watch, I don't really remember Kansas City ever being that team.
'Cause
And
to-
now they're that team.
To a man, almost every person that you spoke to or that we interviewed or anything like that after the game was over on Sunday was very much just wait, we'll be back next year. And that you know, there's a lot of teams that and we keep comparing to the Patriots, but there's they've been to that many consecutive AFC championships, their third consecutive Super Bowl. Boston fans are used to being very good at the pro football, and they're not worried about, hey, we're always going to be good. When you get these teams that all of a sudden are better than they have ever been, there can be a fear of, man, that was our shot. We're not going to be able to do that again. But no one that I heard from either on TV or on social media or anything like that kind of put that feeling forward. It was more like, no, we've arrived. We're going to be here on this stage for a long time. Get used to what this kind of fandom looks like, and that sounds like what you're describing there, of a much more awareness kind of thing.
We did a couple of stories in the lead up to the playoffs that I thought showed the depth of the question that you just asked, Megan. One of our reporters, Jordan, did a story out in Independence where there was an elementary school teacher. I think she was in second or third grade. I think, Stephen, you emailed this out to the newsroom, where she was using football and the Chiefs to teach math.
Yeah.
And like the depth of, and you talked about, so how does the fandom move forward? Well, I think a lot of what we saw this year was the success of the Chiefs reinvigorating the level, the age level of really young kids.
Yeah.
And then there was another one. There was a field trip, and this was just on social media. There was a field trip that somebody took to a fire department, like a class goes to the fire department, whatever. And you looked at all the kids in the photo that they had taken with the fire department, and every last one of them was wearing Chiefs gear.
Yeah.
And what was also cool about this, and you could have a debate about it, I guess, is it doesn't matter if you live in Johnson County or Independence or live in the Northland. Chiefs fandom generally knows no bounds.
Yeah.
And if we can maybe use that as a way to bring everybody together, and heck, maybe we can tackle some of these, no pun intended, tackle some of the other issues that our community struggles with because we can't come together as a community. Maybe we can take the spirit of what the Chiefs have given us a little bit and take it outside of football.
And we saw a little bit of that, to change gears a little bit, Stephen, on the Dave Cochran thing. We saw a little bit of that of people from all walks of life responding to.
It was a heck of a segue.
Hey, listen, I do this for a living. Responding to who Dave was and who Dave used to be, and watching him moving forward. You were able to be around him on Sunday when he got to go to the AFC Championship game. Now that that's over, because who knows, he would he have been able to go to the Super Bowl if they'd gone, that kind of thing. Who knows if that had been a possibility? But now that that's over, what has been your reaction to the way people have responded to that story? We've talked a lot about him, but the way that has been kind of an overarching theme the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it definitely has brought people together in a way. With all the, like Megan said, so many people like being energized and attracted to the Chiefs, and the exposure being on Kansas City.
Yeah,
is like just crazy that story happens to happen. Right before it. Every time someone asks me about Dave, I've talked to him every day since
the game
since the first
since the first time it happened. Yeah.
And he keeps saying, man, I don't want to let you down. I don't want to let y'all down. And people keep, every day keep getting packages in the mail for him and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping that he sees people trying to help him, and that makes him want to turn away from a life of crime
Absolutely.
and things like that. He talks to Jeff Allen every day.
Yeah.
Like he said, man, I called Jeff and his wife and told his wife to bring me some cookies, and and she brought him some cookies for the game. She owns a cookie company.
Yeah.
And it's just so much riding into it. But I was talking with someone in the newsroom, and we've seen with these like viral stories or stories where a homeless person, gets a lot of money. Like, and I've had this conversation with Dave, like so many people are raising you up, and so many, everybody's on your side right now, and then that's going to fade, and it's a
Then what?
Yeah, it's a matter of
Yeah.
how do you really respond, and so only time can tell what will happen from that, but it's definitely brought people together in a unique way, in my opinion.
Sure.
Colorado University yesterday, they saw that he had a jacket on.
Yeah.
A Colorado
But in
jacket.
that first
was
interview with
old.
him, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and so the athletic department mailed a bunch of new gear. So it's just touched.
Even
a
though
lot
he
of
has
people.
he has no affiliation with Colorado University
No.
whatsoever. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's interesting. Like I said, time will tell what happens moving forward. But definitely, hopefully, that will be the restart to his life with all of the Chiefs buzz.
Sure.
And so we'll have to see.
And I want to go back to something that Megan pointed out earlier about the future for this team and for the city. I'm really interested to see what the fall looks like now when football comes back and the Chiefs are no longer we don't know what they're going to be. They're going to be 7-9, 8-8. No, they're really good. They were one play away from the Super Bowl last year. Have every chance to be that again this year. I'm interested to see what the sports news broadcasting world circles around Kansas City once we get back to training camp and that kind of thing, and moving forward, what it's going to be as far as awareness about Kansas City and the team itself. Because kind of a weird line to draw, but we talked about this year that the guys from Queer Eye were here, and then Kansas City's going to have a circle around it because of that when that show comes out. I think this is a whole other reason Kansas City will have another circle around itself whenever the team comes back in the fall.
I just hope people realize that there's Kansas City, Missouri has all cool stuff. Kansas City, Kansas.
No, what's wrong with NASCAR? And, like sporting Kansas City is
It's
Absolutely.
over there.
It's
But
KC.
my thing
over
is-
there.
He said it's over there.
My thing is like people still don't realize that the bigger city is in Missouri.
Right.
Yeah, they don't.
Uh-huh.
It's
They don't.
just, and it was funny. It was just a joke, so people from Kansas don't get mad.
I'm
When
gonna
we were,
tell Sonny's.
we were when they were. Well, you weren't here. They were doing the national anthem, and they had the American flag,
Right.
And they had the Missouri flag, and there go the Kansas flag. I'm like,
Oh, you're talking about during when Sanford was
and it
singing.
was the main one you can see.
Absolutely.
I'm like,
I
that's
thought
gonna
the
make
same
people
thing.
More confused.
I
with
thought the
Missouri
same
right
thing.
there. And I'm a transplant, so I really don't have room to talk. But I see.
That's so funny. I thought the same thing. I remember thinking, hey,
Yes.
that's not
It
right.
was right there in the camera. I'm like,
Did you see that she was taking flack on Twitter for her attire?
No.
Etheridge was?
Yeah.
No.
People were dogging on her for
'Cause the Chiefs
having
gave her all that.
well, right, but she had the bubble jacket. And, she was more function over form. She wanted it was
right.
not particularly warm.
Yeah.
Right.
So she just wanted to be warm, and people were like, "You just look like a bubble person."
Oh wow.
And she's
That's
like,
horrible.
Yeah, and I was like,
Because I
"Come on,
thought she did an incredible job. And
I really didn't notice her clothes.
Me either.
me either. You're too busy looking at the Kansas flag. Of course you didn't notice her clothes.
Well, one of the
I
things
didn't even know the Kansas flag was.
Oh, it was waving right there.
It would be funny as if Kansas beats the Missouri legislature and makes the Chiefs the official team,
Oh, gosh. That'd be something.
wouldn't it?
So I think, I think the defining point in the season, a little bit, and it wasn't necessarily a positive thing, was when Kareem Hunt happened,
Yeah.
and we did a couple of episodes on it. The 4th and 1 podcast, they actually talked about Kareem Hunt was probably the missing ingredient.
You mean on
from-
Sunday on the
on
AFC
Sunday
Championship?
in Sunday's AFC Championship game, especially in the first half. And it would be interesting to get his thoughts on. I'm assuming that he probably watched that game. and maybe I don't know, who knows, but when we're talking about looking forward, there's a path forward for him too, and hopefully he can use what happened this year to make the changes that he needs to make, because he's clearly a heck of a football player, and so hopefully he's able to do that. But to me, sitting in the newsroom on that Friday and seeing that video pop up on TMZ, that was almost
From the hotel, you mean, of Kareem Hunt.
right,
in the
right,
hotel.
in Cleveland. To me, that was almost the more disappointing memory of the season than losing in the AFC Championship game. Because to me, that was it's like, man, are we going to be able to pull it off?
Yeah.
Without, because I think you could make an argument that
No, I heard
He
a
made
lot
the
of
team
people say,
better.
well, no Super Bowl now. Like, a lot of
yeah.
people's hopes just dropped after that.
they eventually, I think, got back from a mentality standpoint, and Damian Williams certainly stepped up.
Did a fantastic job, sure. And it's interesting too that you bring that up, because Kareem's name was in the news again right around game time on Sunday, because Adam Schefter, who is from ESPN and widely regarded as the inside guy for NFL news, came out with a report that said, listen, there's already several teams that are interested in him. He is expected to have a short suspension and be able to be back on a roster again next year. So we'll hear his name again next year, almost certainly, whenever he shows up on another squad, and whether that be in a place like Chicago, where Matt Nagy who was his offensive coordinator before. It'll be interesting to see where he shows up. But then Kansas City will get another chance to talk about that and think about it and respond to it again whenever he's picked up next season. So we'll have to. That's kind of a what will that sound like moment whenever that happens.
Taylor, you mentioned how you kind of got on board the Chiefs bandwagon, and Steven is obviously a Falcons.
Hey, man.
So
I
were
like
the
the
were
Aren't
the
you from Atlanta, Stephen?
I don't know.
so was Matt Ryan and the Falcons when they blew their Super Bowl lead, when they're
See-
like, hey,
see the shade?
we'll be back next year in the same spot.
No, and see, you mentioned it, and you pricked my heart, because it was one of those when the Falcons went to the Super Bowl. I'm like, that was our shot. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think they're gonna be back anytime.
Oh,
That's
okay.
just me being honest.
And they weren't anywhere close this season. So
Right. Thank you.
I'm just making sure
Thank you.
that
The funny thing,
it's
so
for facts.
I wasn't, we were up in the press box, but when I went on the field, I put on my my Scully, but it was like a Georgia one, so I turned it to the side, like
Okay.
so people wouldn't see the Georgia thing.
Still
It-
red.
It was red and gray.
yeah.
And after the game, we're waiting to do our live hit at 10 o'clock. And Harrison Butker, who went to Georgia Tech,
Decatur,
leading
yeah.
scorer for Georgia Tech, and him and his boys are like, "Oh, we need to take a picture." And so one dude, big 6'8" looking dude, came up to me and said, "Hey, can you take this picture for us?"
Can
I'm
you
like,
take this picture?
I'm like, okay. And then I saw his Butker, and I was like, okay. So I snapped some pictures, and the dude next to Butker was like, "Really, man? You got on a Georgia?" And Butker just shakes his head. I'm like, "I'm sorry, dude," but yeah, I don't
can't
even
help
know
it.
what the question was.
He got all wrapped up in
You
it.
just got to throw some Georgia.
He got wrapped
Let
up
me-
in Atlanta talk. He started talking about Georgia and couldn't get anywhere
Well, let me
else.
throw my Arkansas connecting.
There you
Please.
go. Throw your Arkansas.
Arkansas State connect.
Okay.
Saints linebacker Demario Davis. Homie.
When
He's
the
my homie.
was he there when you were there?
He's my homie.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then Todd Palmer wanted to question, oh, y'all are homies. Were you invited to the wedding? I said, yes, I was.
okay. Where was the wedding?
The Mississippi. Ooh.
Also should be in the Super Bowl, but we
Yes,
won't
yes.
get too
He
far
got
down
an
that particular.
interception, too. I'm like, hey.
I think what happened was the Atlanta fans paid off that ref not to throw the flag, because the Atlanta fans
I'm cool with that.
would have revolted. And actually, I think they did.
We would have demolished the new
Had
stadium.
the Saints come
there.
to Atlanta.
Yeah.
I saw a report that they had to move the referees from the NFC Championship game to another hotel outside of New Orleans. They were in some place in the city, and they had to move them to a different hotel after the game because of the threats they were getting, and it was not a good situation. They had to move them out of the way.
Speaking of other teams' fan bases, people in St. Louis were not cheering for the Rams against the Saints.
I read an article this morning talking about how upset sports fans are in St. Louis because they talk about the quote from the article was, everyone here hates the Rams because of what happened, and the only team they hate as much as the Rams is the Patriots because of that loss. So it's like, great, what a horrible Super Bowl we have to watch here in the St. Louis area.
I think Poppy Bowl will get some giant ratings in St. Louis and Kansas City.
And Kansas City, yep.
Or for me, this is the life of being a both Vikings and Chiefs fan.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Just like,
So we're kind of used to it. You know.
So yeah, there's no denying that it was an incredible season. People were fired up about this team like they haven't been in a while, and I think that will continue over as we were talking about there. So we have a lot to look forward to as far as how to cover this. I think we will have to maybe tweak some ways that we have to cover the Chiefs next season because it's no longer just it's just the Chiefs are there. No, this is now a championship caliber football team, and it's time to change the way that we cover them from a news and sports perspective as well. So we'll have to change.
It's going to be hype.
Watch that. It's going to be hype, is what he said. They're not even paying attention to us over there. Steven's on the Insta over there doing something.
He is on Insta.
Working on,
Bye, guys.
Working on his podcast story.
Right.
Cheesing with Megan for that.
We're kids. Okay.
So, real quickly before we wrap this up, 4th and 1, which is the podcast we produce here at 41 Action News for the Chiefs, will continue in the offseason. It won't be necessarily a weekly thing, but they will continue because there's still lots of things to talk about in the offseason.
And one of the things they'll have to talk about is Bob Sutton, who's no longer a member of the Chiefs. Somebody on Twitter photoshopped the Chiefs logo off of his. Do you guys see this? They
just made it a red polo shirt.
They made it. They turned the Chiefs logo into a McDonald's logo.
Oh,
and they because he has his headset on, so it looks like he's taking a drive-through order.
Man, that's
Respect your elders, y'all.
Yeah. So everybody's
Lord.
like too soon.
Lord.
Too
So
soon.
yeah, they've had something to talk about. They'll have free agency in the draft and all kinds of things to discuss. So if you're a fan of 4th and 1, keep being a fan of 4th and 1 all year long. If you're a fan of 41 Files, we're sure glad that you are.
Why did you do that?
I didn't think it was that funny.
There's still
Now I need to see this.
yeah, they want to see the pictures.
Oh,
We're glad you're a
man.
fan of 41 Files. We'll see you next week. Go Chiefs.
Bye bye.